Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Before time had a name, before mountains raised their heads or winds learned how to sing, there was a silence in the cosmos, vast and cold and filled with dust. Then came the stars, ancient fires blooming in darkness. Some burst, scattering their secrets, among them a simple, curious pairing of hydrogen and oxygen. These two danced together in the void, clinging tightly in twos and threes, forming tiny, invisible beads of water. This water, older than Earth herself, travelled through space on comets and asteroids. It drifted for eons like pollen caught in starlight, until one day, in a young molten corner of the universe, a newborn planet beckoned. That planet was Earth, still glowing, still trembling, still becoming, and to her, the water came. The first rains were not like ours, they did not patter. They hissed and screamed, falling into lava oceans, vanishing into steam. The sky wept for millions of years. Each drop boiled and vanished, yet more came, relentless and soft-hearted. In time the earth cooled. The surface cracked, exhaled and invited. Lakes began to gather in the cradles of stone. Oceans opened their arms wide, and there, right there, was the first stillness, the first mirror. Water pooled into the hollows of the earth like tears settling into sleep. The moon, newly caught in orbit, looked down and saw herself reflected. That reflection would one day see the faces of creatures, of forests, of us. But in the beginning it was just light and water, quietly learning one another. Beneath the surface, volcanoes still whispered. Minerals and gases stirred the water's chemistry. Salt, the ocean's quiet gift, was born here. In those deep hot wombs where light could not follow, life began to stretch from possibility into breath. The first cells were cradled in warm water, like seeds waiting in the soil. They pulsed and divided, feeding on minerals, learning to share space. Imagine it. Darkness, silence, a single strand of life drifting in warm salt. That was the beginning. Even then, water was not only a place, it was a memory. It carried the heat of stars, the touch of comets, the weight of time. As the earth turned and aged, water flowed and fell and rose. It melted from glaciers and carved valleys in stone. It wrapped itself around continents, curled into clouds, sank into caves, rose again as mist. Always changing, never gone. And it listened. It listened to the mountains being born. It listened to the rustle of new leaves. It listened to the slow crawl of life onto land. Water touched everything quietly, patiently, without hurry. It became rivers, fed forests, filled lungs. It held the sky and washed the ground. It shaped the face of earth as gently as a mother's hand on a sleeping child's cheek. Even today, the water in your glass remembers those beginnings. Some molecules in your tea once swirled inside an ancient fish. Some drifted through dinosaur breath, some froze in the ice of a forgotten age, then ran through Roman aqueducts or hid in medieval wells. They remember every cloud they've ever been, every stream they've ever joined. To drink water is to drink history, not just of people or places, but of stars, of silence, of the first soft fall of rain. Now picture that first drop again, that whisper of water touching molten rock. The steam rising, the patience of cooling, the courage of returning. Every stream, every sea, every sip you take began there in that act of meeting, when water met the earth, and the earth, lonely and wild, welcomed her like a friend who had travelled far. Let that thought settle like silt on a riverbed. You are part of that same long story. The same water that helped cool a planet now dances inside your cells. It flows in your blood, in your breath, in your tears. It carries your thoughts like it once carried the first cell. In this way you are ancient. your rain, your ocean and mist and snowflake. And water, always gentle, always changing, continues the story it began, long before you, long after you, never lost, only becoming. Let's drift deeper now, into the flow of time. After the first oceans cooled and stilled, water did not rest. It began to explore. It ran its fingers over stone-shaping valleys and cliffs with the patience of a lullaby. It danced with sunlight, rising into vapour and falling again as mist. It began to sculpt not only land, but life itself. In the shallows of the sea, water became a womb. There the first living things stirred, no bigger than grains of dust. Tiny, soft, and pulsing with simple dreams, they moved through water as if through silk. They floated, divided, merged. Some learned to feed from light, others from the warmth of vents below. All of them depended on water, not just to hold them, but to be them. Their bodies were water, shaped into form by a whisper of code. As ages passed, these creatures grew more curious. They formed bodies with tiny hairs to swim and built shells and found ways to glow, and still water carried them, supported them, held them when they died and cradled what came next. The ocean became a library of becoming, a place where memory and mutation mingled like warm currents. Life crawled forward. Fish swam, and later creatures grew legs. They climbed onto the muddy banks of rivers, their lungs learning to drink air instead of water. But even on land, they carried oceans inside them. Every heartbeat, every breath, every tear, they were little reminders of where we came from. Rivers, meanwhile, were busy telling stories to the land. They learned to carve stone, to braid themselves into wetlands, to flood and retreat. They taught forests how to grow. They taught animals when to migrate, where to drink, how to find home. Even deserts bowed to the wisdom of water, shaping themselves to its rare, sacred arrival. Water touched everything and remembered everything. It remembered the footprints of mammoths beside melting lakes. It remembered the hum of insects over quiet ponds. It remembered the thirst of early humans and the prayers they whispered to rain. In every drop, 1,000 voices sang, not loudly but deeply, like echoes in a canyon, like lullabies in the bones of the earth. People learned from water. We followed its paths to build our homes. We planted beside it. We bathed in it. We honoured it. Our ancestors knelt beside springs and rivers, believing spirits lived there. And maybe they did. Or maybe the spirit was water itself, ancient and awake, teaching us how to listen. Even our thoughts, our dreams, our very minds depend on water. The brain floats in it. Nerves whisper across its currents. Without it, the self begins to fade. And so, just as the first cells needed water to grow, we need it to remember who we are. Some of the water inside you once circled the globe in a monsoon. Some once floated as snow over the Himalayas. Some waited patiently underground for centuries before rising in a well. It passed through the trunks of the trees, the breath of birds, the clouds above deserts. And now, it is you. Pause for a moment. Breathe. That breath contains moisture from faraway forests. With each breath you touch rain. You touch rivers. You touch the oceans that first cradled life. Water connects us, not just to each other, but to everything. It moves between body and sky, between stone and seed. It slips through time without fear. It knows the quiet patience of glaciers and the fierce rush of waterfalls. It has shaped the earth, and it shapes you still. In every glass, in every drop on your skin, in every tear that falls from your eye, the journey of water continues. It is never just now. It is always before and always becoming, a soft cycle without end. And through it, we are connected to the stars, because long ago, in the heat of exploding suns, the pieces of water were born. And long after we are gone, the water will remain, still flowing, still remembering, still whispering. So when you drink, when you swim, when you hear the hush of waves or the rhythm of rain, you are not just experiencing the present. You are reaching backward through time. You're hearing the story that began with a comet, a cloud, and a planet still learning how to breathe. And water, our oldest storyteller, tells it still in ripples and echoes, in fog and flood, in the slow hush of snow falling in the night. Now let us return softly to the present. You sit, perhaps quietly, perhaps with a glass beside you. In that stillness, you may hear the hum of pipes, the sigh of the faucet, the hush of your own breath. Within all of it, water waits. This water, clear, gentle, humble, has journeyed across worlds. It has changed names and shapes, vapour, snow, ice, fog, stream, sweat, tear, tide. It has flowed through every form of life, and it now arrives unnoticed perhaps, in your cup, in your cells. It entered your home through the unseen veins of the city. Through hidden tunnels and curled copper, water made its way, cleaned, filtered, calmed, to reach your hands. But the journey began far earlier than that. Perhaps your water came from a deep reservoir where snowmelt gathers, or from a river that once ran beside ancient trees, or from aquifers, vast underground oceans formed thousands of years ago. Some of this water is older than language, older than writing, older than memory. It waited in the roots of mountains, or curled beneath fields, or floated patiently in the sky. It was pulled by gravity, pushed by a pressure, cradled by clouds. And somehow, across miles and centuries, it reached you. Imagine that, water that once turned the wheels of Roman mills, water that once cooled the leaves of jungle trees, water that once froze around the fur of a woolly mammoth. Now it brushes your lips. Each time you drink, you join a cycle that began before time had seasons. Each drop you swallow was once part of something vast, an ocean, a cloud, a flood, a breath. And when you return it, through tears, through rain, through soil, it does not disappear. It continues, it listens, it transforms. In this way, you are not only a person, you are a passage, you are a brief resting place for something ancient and kind. You are the earth's vessel, however briefly, for its most sacred element. Children splash in puddles, animals find secret streams, clouds whisper to the sea and return as rain. And all the while, water remembers. It remembers the shape of joy and sorrow, of drought and flood. It remembers the songs of birds and the cries of whales. It remembers the silence of stones. It will remember you too, for you have wept with it. You have bathed in it. You have offered it to plants, to pets, to people you love. You have watched it fall, rise, drip, shimmer. You have been part of its path, and when you are gone, water will continue, and it will touch your descendants. It will cool their foreheads, quench their thirst, wash their hands. It will move through their bodies as it moves through yours now. And they will be part of this same ancient story, a story without an end. This is what makes water more than a substance. It is memory, it is motion, it is miracle. A drop of it contains the dust of comets, the bones of glaciers, the breath of ancestors. A drop of it carries whispers from the sea and sighs from the mountains. A drop of it can grow a forest or carve a canyon or quench a life. And tonight, if you close your eyes and listen closely, you might hear it, dripping from leaves, rushing through pipes, falling on roofs, coiling inside you like a lullaby. That is the voice of water. It has never stopped speaking. It speaks now through you. In the hush before sunrise, when mist still clings to the earth like a sleepy thought, rivers begin to whisper. They do not roar or crash at this hour. They hum low songs, ancient and slow, telling stories of the mountains that gave them birth. Every river begins with a memory, a snowflake resting on a cliff, a droplet of rain slipping into a crack of stone, a melting glacier sighing into a green valley. That first moment, a trickle, a bead, a shimmer, marks the beginning of a journey from height to heart, from solitude to sea. High in the mountains, water waits. It gathers in secret places, beneath boulders, inside moss, beneath snow that hasn't seen sunlight in months. It curls in silence, and then one day, warmed by sun or shifted by wind, it begins to move, slowly, softly, It slides down the slope, picking up speed, joining other drops. It is no longer just water. It is now a river being born. The river does not forget its beginning. As it tumbles down the rocks, it remembers the height, the cold, the quiet. It carries with it tiny minerals from the mountain's bones. It carries pieces of time, of silence, of stone. You can feel this memory if you sit beside a fast-moving stream in early spring. The water is sharp, clear, wild. It hasn't yet learned to meander. It runs like a child who has just discovered its legs, quick, excited, impatient to see the world below. But even then, it remembers where it came from, and it carries that memory into everything it touches. Rivers carve the land not with rage, but with devotion. Day after day, year after year, they press against stone, wearing it down, shaping it into gentle curves. They don't break the earth, they invite it to soften. They teach the land how to yield, and in that yielding, new beauty is born, canyons, valleys, cliffs. The river teaches the rocks patience, the rocks teach the river stillness. Together they form the path. As the river travels, it collects more than just water. It gathers leaves, silt, fallen branches, the reflections of birds flying overhead. It weaves these into its flow like beads in a necklace. Every bend, every ripple, every eddy is a quiet testimony to time's passage. And still it remembers. It remembers the cold bite of the glacier, the weight of the snowfall, the hush of alpine winds. Rivers do not forget the mountains, even as they wind through forests, across fields, past towns and cities. They carry the cool breath of elevation in their currents. Listen closely and you can hear it. The echo of altitude, the longing for height, the story of descent. Children play in rivers, animals drink from them, people build homes near them. Yet the river's journey is never for us alone. It is a ritual, an honouring. It is water returning to the sea, offering back what the sky once gave. Sometimes in dry summers, the river runs low. Stones show their backs, the water slows to a crawl, and yet deep below, hidden in roots and soil, the memory of the mountain waits. The water knows how to rise again, it always rises. And so rivers are not just water. They are threads. They stitch together high peaks and distant oceans. They pull together the stories of storms, of seasons, of migrations. They are time made visible. Imagine a single drop born on a snow-capped peak, falling into a creek, tumbling over rocks, joining a stream, merging into a river, and flowing into the sea. That drop remembers every twist, every bend. It remembers sunlight on pine needles, the cry of eagles, the scent of moss. It carries all of that with it, and when the river finally reaches the ocean, it does not end. It becomes cloud, mist, fog, and it lifts into the air, and then, one day, carried by winds, it returns to the mountains again. The cycle continues. The memory deepens. And the river, reborn again and again, keeps singing the mountain's name. Let us drift now farther down the current. As rivers leave the mountains, their song begins to change. The sharpness of their youth softens. They no longer rush and leap. They wind, curl, pause. They widen their arms and embrace the land. The wild tumbling becomes a slow whisper, and in that whisper they begin to tell new stories. These are stories of plains and forests, of meadows and marshes, of creatures that walk, crawl, flutter, and swim. The river becomes a mirror for the sky, reflecting clouds and moonlight. It becomes a highway for dragonflies and reeds, for frogs singing in twilight. It becomes a cradle for turtles and trout, for seeds and shadows. The river flows not just through land, but through life. All along its banks the world listens, trees lean in to drink, roots reach down, wrapping around the wet earth. Grasslands grow thick and green, flowers bloom where water lingers, birds nest where the current slows, deer, foxes and raccoons find their way by scent, returning to drink again and again. And beneath the surface where light dims and pebbles glisten, a secret world unfolds. Tiny fish dart like flickers of thought. Insects skim the edges, leaving ripples like tiny questions. Microscopic life spins in spirals, unseen but essential. The river hums with energy, but it never shouts. It works quietly with steady hands. And as it flows, it carries memory still. It carries pollen from flowers, dust from far hills, ash from distant fires. It carries whispers from farms and footsteps from villages. It carries stories told in laughter and in sorrow, baptisms and burials, weddings and wars, all of it gently swept along in the folds of the current. The river is not just a passage, it is a keeper. It holds the memory of the land. When it floods, it writes a new chapter. When it recedes, it leaves behind seeds for new beginnings. It does not choose what to keep, it simply carries. And in doing so, it remembers everything. People have long built lives near rivers. Cities rise where rivers meet. Markets buzz where boats come in. Music floats from bridges. Prayers are whispered at dawn. Lanterns float on the surface like glowing dreams. The river sees all of it and flows on. And yet, even here, it never forgets the mountains. The minerals it carries, the cool undertone in its current, the shape of its stones, all of it comes from that first descent. The river remembers the gravity that first pulled it down the slope. It remembers the cliff where it first leapt. It remembers the snowmelt that once tickled the moss. Even when it winds through fields of wheat, past fences and roads, it holds within it the memory of wild peaks and thin air. It is like a child grown old who still recalls the lullaby her mother once sang. In some places, rivers braid themselves into deltas, complex, ever-shifting veins of water and land. Here, the river lets go of direction. It wanders. It splits. It hesitates. It becomes many while still being one. This too is part of the journey, a letting go before the return to sea. And in the wetlands and estuaries, where salt and sweet water meet, life explodes. Birds gather by the thousands. Fish spawn in the tangled grasses. The river nourishes the roots of mangroves, the legs of herons, the shells of crabs. It does not demand thanks. It simply gives. And always it flows, even when hidden beneath ice, even when turned by dams, even when burdened by the weight of our waste. The river finds a way because it remembers the mountain. It remembers freedom, descent, the beginning of movement. And so the river becomes a teacher. It teaches that power does not need to be loud, that persistence shapes even the hardest stone, that slowness is not weakness, that patience is strength. Watch a river long enough and you will learn these things. Watch the way it curves around an obstacle, the way it reflects light, the way it keeps moving even when blocked. It always finds another path. It bends, splits, rejoins, swirls, but never stops. It teaches us that change can be soft, that memory can be fluid, that to move is to be alive. And as the river nears the sea, it sings differently now. The song is older, fuller, slower. It no longer races. It glides. It holds more, not just in weight, but in wisdom. It has seen more. It has touched more. And it carries all of that quietly. The river is not just a body of water. It is a body of stories. And soon it will meet the ocean and let those stories go. Now the river draws near its ending, or perhaps its beginning. It moves slower now, wider. The banks stretch far apart. The current deepens, quieter than before. Birds drift in its sky-reflected waters. Reeds murmur in the breeze. The river, like an elder returning home, carries every moment of its journey inside its rippling skin. And just ahead, the ocean waits. This meeting is not sudden. There is no crash, no rupture. It is a soft merging, salt and fresh, blue and brown, current and tide, each folding gently into the other. The river lets go of its shape. The ocean welcomes it. Here, in this brackish mingling, the river ends not by vanishing, but by becoming. It becomes mist. It becomes tide. It becomes storm and cloud and whisper and memory. What once ran over stone now dances with waves. What once poured through mountains now swells with moonlight. And yet even here, the river remembers. It remembers the place where it was born, in the cold hush of alpine snow, on the dark slope of stone. It remembers the first droplet sliding free, the moment it became motion, the moment it became more than itself. The river's body is gone, dissolved into sea, but its spirit continues. It rises into the sky with warmth. It drifts as invisible vapour. It condenses into cloud. It travels on the backs of winds. And one day, gently, it falls again, as rain, as snow, as dew on a mountaintop. And the journey begins again. Because rivers do not die, they cycle, they shift. They teach us that endings are not endings at all, but quiet returns. The water in the river will feed roots, will stir dreams, will rest in a leaf, a feather, a lung. It may pool in a hoofprint in the forest. It may hang like silver on a spiderweb. It may fall into a seed and help it grow, and in time it will flow again. Downward, always downward, remembering its path. It may not look the same, it may take a different route, but the spirit remains. That pull toward the sea, that longing for release, that soft promise whispered in every drop. Keep going. And in this, rivers speak to us. They tell us to move but not rush, to hold but not grip, carve gently and to yield where we must. They teach us that strength comes not from force but from flow, that we too are shaped by what we pass through. Every person is a river. You carry your memories, your histories, your dreams, each drop another moment, each bend another choice. You begin in one place, you pass through many, you collect beauty, grief, love, scent, and in much time you return to something greater. And just like the river, you do not vanish, you change, you rise, you fall, you return, and maybe, just maybe, part of you always remembers where you began. So the next time you sit beside a river, whether it's a mountain stream or a city canal, listen closely. Beneath the splash and swirl, you may hear the mountain calling, and you may feel something deep within you responding, like a memory too old to name but too sacred to forget. That is the voice of the river. That is the journey of water. That is the story of always returning home. Before the first drop falls, before the clouds gather in solemn grey, the sea takes a breath. Far out on the open water, where the sky stretches wide and blue, the ocean begins to whisper, not in words but in warmth. Beneath the surface, currents shift. Sunlight heats the skin of the sea. Molecules move faster, higher, lighter, and slowly the ocean begins to exhale. Water becomes air, vaporizes. It drifts upward like dreams, like prayers, unseen, carried by breezes, lifted by warmth, shaped by invisible hands. The vapor gathers, cools, condenses. Clouds form like soft mountains in the sky. What was once the sea is now a sky being, floating far above its cradle. This is how every storm begins, not in thunder, not in flash, but in breath. A warm sigh from the ocean rising upward, becoming sky. Storms are born of longing. The sea reaches up, the sky answers down. As vapor climbs, it cools. Droplets begin to form, tiny, delicate, suspended in air. They cling to dust, to salt, to pollen. One by one they join. The clouds darken, heavy with the memory of water. Wind begins to stir, soft at first, like fingers brushing tall grass. The clouds move, slow and swelling, across continents and oceans, carried by forces older than words. They are travellers, these storm-born beings, shaped by sun and spin and space. And still, they hold the breath of the sea. You can feel it when the air changes. A hush before the fall. The pressure drops. The wind shifts. Leaves shiver on trees. Birds pause mid-flight. Even the insects grow still. Nature knows what's coming. The breath has arrived. And then the first drop falls, not with fury, but with gentleness, like a fingertip on skin, like the return of something long awaited. Raindrops are messengers. Each one carries within it a story of the ocean. Some were once waves crashing against distant cliffs. Some were mist curling through mangrove leaves. Some rose from coral reefs, from whalebacks, from tide pools warmed by morning sun. Now they fall upon fields, forests, rooftops, rivers. They kiss the world awake. In storms, the breath of the sea becomes a song. It drums on windows. It taps on tin roofs. It splashes through gutters, into puddles, into soil. It finds roots. It finds streams. It finds home. And beneath the rain, wind moves like music. Sometimes soft, sometimes wild, it dances through branches, swirls through streets, races across hills. It does not stay. It reminds us that everything moves, everything changes. Storms do not come to harm, they come to cleanse, to cool, to shift. And yet they are not always gentle. Some carry the sea's sorrow, its grief, its unrest. Some come with lightning and thunder, with floods and fury. But even then their core remains the same, water, longing to return. In every storm the sea remembers itself, and so does the land. Parched soil opens its arms. Rivers swell with gratitude, trees drink deeply. Seeds swell and stir. Life listens and grows. Rain speaks to stone, it smooths it, shapes it, finds its cracks and softens its pride. Even the hardest places are changed by water. And when the rain ends, when the last drop falls and the clouds begin to thin, the breath of the sea does not disappear. It settles, it seeps, it begins again. On a leaf, in a puddle, in the curl of a child's hair. The storm may move on, but its touch remains. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it, the hush of the earth soaking in the sky, the sigh of grass, the laughter of streams, the soft applause of dripping eaves. The breath of the sea has arrived, and the world is new again. This is the storm's gift, not destruction, but remembrance. A reminder that all water returns, that all breath begins again, that even the wildest winds carry within them a seed of peace. And in that peace we are held. After the storm has passed, the air changes. It is cleaner now, cooler, quieter, with a stillness that feels sacred. The world, freshly rinsed, holds its breath in the pause that follows thunder. Raindrops cling to leaves like glass pearls. Puddles shimmer on roads. Clouds thin like lace, drifting slowly away. This moment, gentle and hushed, carries the echo of something larger. The sea, far away or just over the horizon, has sent its voice across the sky. It has touched the earth, and now everything listens. In this quiet, the breath of the sea settles into the land. Rain sinks into soil, deep and slow. It travels downward through layers of roots and rock, feeding seeds, waking sleeping roots, stirring old springs. Some of it will remain underground for decades, cradled in cool darkness. Some will rise again in the form of mist by morning, and some will find its way into streams and rivers, continuing the long journey back to where it began. This too is breath. Inhale, exhale, sky to sea, sea to sky. Even the trees breathe with the water. After rain, their stomata, tiny mouths on every leaf, open wide. They drink. They breathe in carbon, breathe out oxygen. With water's help, they turn light into life. The green world begins to glow again. You can see it in the way the forest steams after rain. The leaves glisten, alive with water's gift. The bark darkens. The moss swells. Insects emerge to dance on wet trunks. Birds shake rain from their feathers. Everything begins again. Rain is not just a moment, it is a bridge. It connects worlds that often feel separate. Sea and soil, cloud and leaf, sky and skin. Walk through a garden after a storm and you'll feel it. The damp scent rising from the earth, rich and ancient. Petrichor, scientists call it. The smell of rain on dry soil. But to the soul it's something deeper. A memory, a sigh, a song that speaks of nourishment and return. And while the plants bloom in gratitude, so do we. Every cell in our body welcomes water. Every organ, every bone, every breath. Rain touches more than skin, it settles into us. We are, after all, made mostly of water. And much of that water once flew through clouds, once fell in storms, once belonged to the sea. So when rain touches us, it is a homecoming. Think of your own breath, the gentle in, the soft out. That rhythm is echoed in the movement of water. Storms are just breaths on a larger scale, slow, powerful, wide, They inhale moisture from oceans, exhale rain across the land. They expand and contract, cycle and return. They are not accidents. They are expressions. Some storms travel thousands of miles. They visit deserts, forests, cities, oceans again. Along the way, they shift in shape and purpose. Sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, sometimes brief, sometimes lingering, but always they are alive. And each part of the world listens in its own way. The rainforest welcomes daily rain, rhythmic and dependable. The desert receives it like a blessing, rare and wild. The tundra guards it as snow, slow to melt, slow to forget. And every drop that falls changes something, awakens something. Even us, children splash through puddles. Artists paint the softened light. Poets listen to the tapping on glass. Lovers walk beneath dripping branches. Elders sit quietly by the window, remembering other rains long ago. Storms do not just water the earth, they water memory. They stir what lies beneath the surface, they loosen our thoughts, they give permission for silence, because when it rains we pause, we watch, we wonder, and in that wonder we return, if only for a moment, to something simpler, older, quieter. The breath of the sea becomes the breath of the world. It becomes lullaby and rhythm, backdrop and balm. It falls on those who notice and those who don't. It falls on fields and cities, on mountaintops and alleyways. It makes no judgment, it simply gives. And when the clouds part and sunlight spills through in golden shafts, the breath is complete, but not gone. It lingers in puddles, in roots, in veins, in dreams. And someday that same water will rise again, caught in the warmth of the morning, pulled upward by sun and sky. It will become cloud, then rain, then river, then sea, over and over, always new, always known. This is the wisdom of the storm, to rise, to give, to rest, and to begin again. In the days that follow a storm, when skies are clear and winds are gentle, the world begins to forget. The puddles shrink, the leaves dry, the clouds drift away to new horizons. Life resumes its familiar rhythm. But beneath the surface, beneath the soil, the rivers, the skin, the breath of the sea remains. You carry it. Not just as moisture in your body, but as rhythm in your being. You feel it in your pulse. You sense it in the quiet moments between thoughts. You remember it when you listen to the rain, when you dream of waves, when your breath slows with the hush of twilight. Storms do not end, they rest. Even as sunshine warms the path and the birds return to their songs, the water is already beginning its return. Hidden in the veins of leaves, the grains of soil, the breath of animals, the next storm is quietly forming, the cycle is never broken. This is the nature of breath, to return, to rise again, to change shape but not spirit. The breath of the sea does not belong to the ocean alone. It belongs to the sky, the land, the trees, the rain, and to you. It moves through all things. It teaches without speaking. It heals without asking. It reminds us that softness can be strong. Think of a single raindrop falling onto the earth, light as a whisper, gentle as a sigh. Yet with time, millions of such drops carve canyons, grow forests, fill lakes. Their power is not in force, but in unity, in presence, in patience. So it is with your breath, and your thoughts, and your presence in this world. When the storm clouds return, and they will, listen again, watch the light shift, smell the air, feel the breeze change direction. The storm is not the enemy of peace, it is its preparation. It clears what is no longer needed. It softens what has grown hard. It reminds us to pause, to be still, to feel. There is beauty in that pause, and there is truth in that stillness. There is memory in every drop. And when the rain falls again, on rooftops, on leaves, on your skin, you may feel it, the recognition, the return, as if the sea is calling your name across time, reminding you of your place in the great cycle of things. The sea does not roar in anger, it breathes in love. Its storms are not punishments, they are poetry. They are the sky's way of remembering the ocean and the ocean's way of reaching back. So next time the clouds gather and the air thickens with scent and silence, do not run from the storm. Step into it. Let it wash you clean. Let it speak to the wild, quiet part of you that still remembers where you came from salt, from sky, from water rising to meet the world, because you are not separate from the storm. You are part of the breath, you are part of the sea, and when it rains, it is not falling on you. It is returning to you, welcoming you home, high in the mountains, above the tree line where wind sculpts the world into silence. Snow falls gently, layer upon layer. It gathers slowly, patiently, like a time folding itself into crystal. And once in a while, when the air is still and the sky hangs low, you can almost believe that this snow has always been here, that it never truly melted, only waited. Snow is not just frozen water, it is memory made visible. Each flake begins as a whisper in the clouds, born from moisture and cold sculpted by wind and quiet temperature shifts. Tiny, weightless, unique. No two are the same, and yet all carry the same story of sky becoming earth. They drift downward like soft stars settling on the world's shoulders. Now imagine standing in a field of deep snow. Beneath your boots lies history. Each layer below you tells of winters past, of storms long forgotten, of winds that blew 1,000 years ago. In glaciers, these layers are preserved like pages in a frozen book. Year after year, snow falls, compacts, and becomes ice. The deeper you go, the older the ice, the further back you travel. In Antarctica, scientists have drilled deep into the heart of ancient glaciers. There, more than 2 miles beneath the surface, they have found ice that first fell as snow over 800,000 years ago. Snow that touched the fur of mammoths. Snow that fell when the continent still trembled with volcanic youth. Snow that knew no cities, no buildings, no names. Inside that ice, tiny bubbles of ancient air remain, trapped like soft voices from the past. Scientists study them to understand the climate of a forgotten Earth, how warm the planet was, how high the sea, how much carbon floated in the air. Each bubble, a breath from another time. So when snow falls, it is not just an event, it is a reunion. It is old sky returning. It is water remembering how to fall slowly, and as snow collects, on rooftops, on treetops, on eyelashes, it changes the shape of the world. It softens sharp edges, it silences roads, it cloaks the earth in stillness. Everything becomes quieter beneath snow, not dead, just sleeping. In the tundra, animals move beneath it. Tiny mice tunnel through the subnivean space between soil and snow, hidden from predators and cold. Arctic foxes listen carefully, ears twitching, hearing life that moves under blankets of white. Snow is not just cover, it is a shelter, a season, a way of waiting. For some creatures, snow is a birthright. The snowshoe hare changes colour with the snow, white in winter, brown in summer. Its feet grow thick and flat like paddles, helping it move across snowdrifts. The lynx follows. Its paws, too, are wide and silent. Evolution has taught them not just to survive snow, but to become it. Even trees adapt. Some conifers grow branches angled downward, allowing snow to slide off. Some bend low, their trunks bowed in winter, only to rise again with spring. Beneath their roots, snow slowly melts and feeds underground streams, beginning the cycle of water once again. And what about us? We too have memories of snow in our bones. Children build snowmen, throw snowballs, trace their names into fresh snowfall. We sip warm drinks while watching flakes spin outside windows. We wrap ourselves in wool and move through the world slowly, as if mirroring the falling snow. We decorate our stories with snow, myths of white winters, holidays wrapped in frost. Poets describe it as silence, as forgiveness, as a clean page. Snow gives us pause, it invites reflection, and deep inside it, ancient snow still falls. Not in the sky, but in memory, in feeling, in rhythm. That rhythm is older than language. It says, slow down. It says, cover the past without forgetting it. It says, be still, because snow does not fall in a hurry. It arrives quietly, transforms the world, and stays until the world is ready to change again. It melts when the time is right, not before, never forced. And as it melts, it remembers what it was: cloud, breath, vapor, wave. The snow that falls today might freeze again tomorrow. It might be buried, pressed, turned to ice. It might sink deep into the earth's frozen heart and wait there, waiting for someone someday to find it again and listen. And what would it say? I fell 1,000 years ago, and I am still here. I watch the stars shift, the forests grow, the world change. I am water, slowed into stillness. I am your past, drifting softly through the sky. Let us wander now beneath the snow's surface, into the deep white layers that time has pressed like pages in a silent book. Here, where light no longer dances and sound is softened to a hum, snow becomes ice, not brittle or sharp, but dense, slow, strong. Each flake, once delicate and drifting, is now joined to 1,000 others, compacted by the weight of winter upon winter. These layers tell stories, not in words, but in temperature, in grain, in quiet shifts of colour and crystal. Snowflakes fall in every shape, yet once they settle, they begin to change. Pressed beneath fresh snowfall, they start to forget their airy geometry. Their arms blur, they round, shrink, grow dense. The snow becomes fern, a halfway state between snow and ice. Fern is snow in deep thought, snow remembering how to become glacier. This transformation can take decades. But time is different here. It stretches, slows, whispers. 100 years may pass in the space between your breath and a glacier's sigh. And when enough snow becomes fern and enough fern becomes ice, the glacier is born. Glaciers are not frozen rivers. They are time made solid. They move, but so slowly you might think they are still. Some slide only a few inches each day, some creak and groan, bending valleys, carving stone, speaking the slowest language of all, patience. Inside a glacier, water dreams of motion. It remembers the cloud it came from, the lake it once filled, the sea it once joined. And though it is frozen now, it is not asleep. It shifts, it flows. Deep beneath its surface, rivers run hidden and dark, sculpting the ground below like careful fingers on clay. And within that ice, deep in its core, tiny bubbles wait. Each bubble is a time capsule, a perfect sphere of air from an ancient sky. Inside is the breath of a woolly rhinoceros, the carbon of ancient wildfires, the trace of pollen from trees that no longer exist. Scientists melt these samples gently, asking questions. The ice answers. In its silence it says, "The earth was warmer then," or "the sea stood lower," or "here was the ash from the volcano that darkened the sky for a year." Snow does not forget. It remembers the laughter of wolves echoing through frozen valleys. It remembers the heartbeat of auroras flickering overhead. It remembers the quiet of polar nights when stars gathered like frost on the face of the sky. And as it melts, slowly, gently, it releases what it has held for centuries. A glacier melting is not just water returning to the sea. It is history pouring into the present. It is a voice thawed into speech. In the Arctic, chunks of blue ice break from glaciers and fall into the ocean. This carving is not violent. It is natural. It is the glacier's way of letting go. The ice floats for a while, becoming iceberg, becoming sea. Some icebergs drift thousands of miles, riding currents, shrinking day by day. Some last for years, some melt within weeks, but all of them carry the memory of snow that fell long, long ago. When you see an iceberg, know that you are looking at ancient snow. Snow that waited patiently to be seen again. Snow that travelled through time, not by clock, but by stillness. And even as glaciers melt, even as climates change and snow lines rise, snow continues to fall. In high mountains and cold forests, on distant planets. Yes, even there. On Mars, frost curls across craters. On Jupiter's moon Europa, beneath a crust of frozen ocean, snow may fall in silence where no one watches. The universe is not warm, but it is generous with snow. And so snow is not just weather. It is not just decoration. It is a thread woven through planets and time, across galaxies and generations. It connects us to the sky, the sea, the stars, the stillness. And when snow falls on your hand, cold, brief, delicate, it's not simply touching you, it's remembering you. Because once your ancestors watched it fall. Once their fires flickered as snow gathered at the threshold. Once they wrapped their children in furs, whispered songs while the storm howled outside, and dreamt of spring beneath thick blankets. That memory lives in your blood. You are not separate from the snow. You are the same water walking for a time, and the snow that falls today might one day become glacier, might one day be buried beneath mountains, might one day rise again as mist, as rain, as the breath of a cloud floating over the sea. Snow is always on its way to becoming something else, but for now it rests, soft, white, waiting. The snow begins to melt, not suddenly, not loudly, but with grace. The sun rises higher each day, tracing longer paths across the sky. Its warmth, once weak and wandering, now rests steadily on the land. Trees begin to stretch their limbs. Birds return, feathered voices filling the silence. Beneath it all, the snow begins to sigh. It melts from the top, slow and shy. It forms beads along the edges of rooftops, droplets hanging from pine needles. Icicles crack, grow thin, fall in slender shards. The white fields shrink, paths reappear, earth exhales, and the first blades of green peek through. But beneath the surface, the real story flows. The meltwater seeps downward through layers of last year's leaves, through roots that twist like ink in the soil, through stones that remember frost. It joins with other threads of melt, forming trickles, then rivulets, then tiny streams that rush with sudden purpose. This water is not lost. It is returning. It carries with it the memory of snow, the quiet, the stillness, the long sleep of winter. It moves now, not in flakes but in ripples, not in silence but in song. You can hear it. In the soft murmur of streams waking up, in the rush beneath the bridge, in the hush of moss as it drinks. The snow becomes river. The river becomes lake. The lake becomes mist. The mist becomes rain. And always the memory flows with it. This is how snow remembers, not just by staying frozen, but by becoming part of everything it touches. Even you, have you felt it? On the first warm day, when sunlight tastes golden and the air smells of thawing roots, your breath deepens, your muscles loosen. You feel something within you soften, as if part of you had been sleeping and now stirs. That is winter releasing its hold. That is snow melting in your spirit. We are not separate from the seasons. We wear them in our bones. Just as water changes state, solid, liquid, vapour, so do we. We freeze when grief comes. We flow when joy arrives. We evaporate in the heat of longing, condense in the cool shade of rest. We are never just one thing, and snow teaches us how to shift, how to rest without guilt, how to wait with purpose, and how to disappear without being gone. Because even when it melts, snow leaves something behind, and it nourishes, and it prepares, it clears the way for growth. And so, long after the fields have turned green and the flowers have opened their painted faces to the sun, the snow is still there, deep in the soil, in the veins of leaves, in the rhythm of rivers. It is in the water you drink. It is in the tear you shed beside a spring blossom. It is in the cloud that floats above the mountain. Snow, once ancient and buried, now moves within you. This is its final gift. To fall, to rest, to melt, to give. To return without asking for thanks. To vanish knowing it will come again, and it will. Next winter, when the air turns crisp and the stars grow brighter. When the first flake drifts through the lamplight like a drifting thought. When the ground hushes and the sky leans low to whisper, I remember you. And you, standing in that hush, will remember too. You will hold out your hand, catch a flake on your palm, and for a moment, just a moment, you will feel the weight of 1,000 years resting lightly on your skin. A story frozen in silence, a breath returned from the past, a promise made by the sky, that even what disappears still belongs. Before life had a name, before limbs stretched or eyes opened to the light, there was only motion, gentle, rhythmic, without beginning or end. And that motion, that eternal rocking, belonged to water. Water came before the body, before bones and breath. It moved across the earth's surface, slid through cracks in stone, pulled in hollows, danced in sunlight. It shaped the land, but more quietly, more wondrous still, it shaped life itself. Every living thing begins in water. A seed swells only when touched by it. An egg forms only where it rests. Cells divide, not in dry silence, but in the buoyant hush of moisture. From the smallest algae to the largest whale, water is not just a background. It is the cradle, the teacher, the mirror in which life learns its shape. Imagine the first cell, tiny, soft, trembling inside a pool, warmed by volcanic breath. It is surrounded by water, held in it like a secret. It pulses, divides, grows. Its membrane knows how to bend, how to let things in and keep things out. That knowledge is written in the language of water. Life is not built to resist water. It is built to flow with it. Your blood is mostly water. So is your brain. So are your muscles, your breath, your tears. You're a walking ocean, a river wrapped in skin, a vessel shaped to carry the world's first element. But how does water learn shape? Not by force, by listening. Water listens to gravity. It falls. It listens to stone. It curves. It listens to heat. It rises. It listens to the pull of the moon, the whisper of wind, the crack of ice. And life, in turn, listens to water. The veins in your hand are shaped by how blood moves. The branches of your lungs echo the way air fills wet passageways. Trees stretch their roots not in straight lines, but in twisting paths guided by the moisture they seek. Even in deserts, where water is rare, life curls tightly, patiently around its absence. Cacti swell when rain comes, storing each drop like a love letter. Beetles collect dew with their wings. Flowers bloom for a single day, opening only when the air carries a promise of wetness. Water teaches shape by asking life to respond, to bend, to open, to carry and to let go. Inside each cell, water carries messages. It dissolves nutrients, moves proteins, transfers signals. It is the courier and the road, the ink and the page. Without water, the cell would wither. Thought would not spark. Muscles would not move, eyes would not see. Life is not carved in stone, it is written in liquid. And that script is always changing. When a fetus grows in the womb, it floats in amniotic fluid. It hears the world through water, tastes it, moves with it. Water teaches the body how to be, how to curl, how to stretch, how to dance. Even after birth, water continues to guide. It flows in tears when we feel. It warms us in baths when we ache. It fills our bellies when we thirst. It cools our skin when we overheat. It surrounds every moment of our becoming. And just as water gives shape to us, we too shape it. When we cry into rivers, when we build dams and lakes, when we cup our hands and drink, when we carve canals, when we make art with it, sail across it, sing beside it. We do not control water. We invite it. We hold it briefly. And in that holding, it holds us back. It teaches us how to soften, how to carry, how to reflect. Water does not resist form, but it never forgets its own. It can fill a cup or cut through granite. It can rise as mist or crash as wave. It remembers the ocean, even in a raindrop, and it teaches life to do the same, to be many things at once, to hold memory and motion, and to bend but not break, to be clear and still be deep, to be shaped and still be free. Water does not need a map to find its way. It seeks, it listens, it adapts. So it is with life. Every living thing grows not in defiance of water, but in conversation with it. The shape of a leaf, the curl of a fern, the stretch of a giraffe's neck, these are not accidents. They are answers to the gentle, persistent question water asks, "Where will you let me go?" Roots answer first. Underground, out of sight, they twist and thread through soil like searching fingers. They follow the scent of moisture. They wrap around rocks. They store water when it is scarce, share it when it flows too freely. Some roots reach deep into aquifers, others fan wide across the topsoil, each one shaped by water, each one remembering its path. Above, stems and trunks follow. Sap too is mostly water, thickened by sugars and minerals, but always moving. In trees, sap climbs against gravity, drawn upward by the invisible pull of thirst in the leaves. As one drop evaporates from a leaf's edge, it pulls the next and the next. A whole column rises, an orchestra of motion, silent and unseen. This too is a miracle of shape, of life designing itself not to hoard water, but to move with it. Think of a sunflower's spiral, a nautilus shell, the branching of coral, lightning, rivers, lungs. These patterns are not just beautiful, they are functional echoes of how water flows. In your lungs, tiny airways split again and again, like streams into tributaries. At the end of each path is an alveolus, a small wet chamber where air meets blood. Each breath you take, each quiet inhale, brings oxygen carried by water vapour. And there, in that moist exchange, life continues. Your blood mimics rivers. It flows through vessels large and small, feeding organs, cleaning cells, gathering waste. It loops and swirls, surges and rests. And just like rivers, when a path is blocked, it finds another. Your body is not a closed system. It is porous. It sweats. It cries. It exhales moisture with every word you speak. You are constantly giving water back to the world and taking it in again. Through fruit, through rain, through air itself, you are a tide-wearing skin. And all the while, water helps you remember your shape. When you fall, water fills the bruise. It brings healing cells. It swells to protect. When you're sick, you thirst because healing demands hydration. When you feel deeply sorrow, joy, fear, your body answers with tears. Why tears? Why do emotions ride water? Perhaps because water is our first language. Before words, we knew it in the womb, in the ocean of our making, in the rivers of our veins, in the rhythms of sleep and wake, rest and movement, rise and return. And still, water speaks to us, in the way skin puckers in a warm bath, in the way our posture changes when we stand in rain, in the way we quiet ourselves beside a lake, watching the light shift across its surface. Water teaches more than form. It teaches presence. It cannot be held for long. It asks us to notice it while it's there, to honour the cup before it's empty, the rain before it stops, the stream before it changes course, and it shapes life by asking it to listen. And when water is scarce, life reshapes itself. In deserts, plants grow thick skins. Animals sleep through heat. People build homes from earth, collect dew from air, dig deep to find hidden springs. Life contracts without water, but it does not disappear. It becomes small, clever, quiet. And when water returns, life opens again. It blooms, it dances, it overflows. That is the way of all things. Expansion, contraction, flow, form. You are shaped by what nourishes you. And when water touches your lips after thirst, when it rolls down your back in the shower, when it falls on your skin from the sky, you're reminded, not in words, in feeling, in the cellular memory of movement, in the quiet pulse of something older than language. Water does not command, it invites. It does not insist, it offers. And life listens, every root, every lung, every limb, every heartbeat. All of it remembers we are shaped not by what we resist, but by what we welcome. Now, Let us follow the final stream back to its stillness. Water has moved through us, shaped us, taught us, and when its lesson is finished, it does not leave us empty. It leaves us changed. Think of the creatures that carry water inside them, not just as necessity, but as design. The jellyfish, its translucent dome pulsing in rhythm with the sea, is 95% water. It floats not by muscle, but by surrender. It drifts not in weakness, but in trust. It knows that its shape is made by the currents it follows. The octopus, soft and fluid, slides through crevices narrower than its own eye. No bones, only motion. It moulds itself to its surroundings. It teaches us that form is not always fixed. That intelligence can be fluid. That flexibility is its own kind of strength. Even the way we speak reflects water's wisdom. We say a person is deep, like a lake. We say emotions well up or overflow. We feel washed in relief or drowned in sorrow. We talk of streams of thought and waves of change. We compare time to a river, always flowing, never the same. Water's metaphors are not just poetry, they are memory. Life remembering where it came from, language echoing the movements that made us. And when life ends, water continues. A body returns to soil. Water seeps into roots. It joins again with rivers, with rain, with clouds. It carries with it the trace of the life it once shaped. A single molecule, passed from parent to child, from tree to fruit, from soil to stem, from tear to stream. In this way, water is not just the shape of life, it is its continuity, its keeper, its whisper across generations. You may never know which drop once flowed through an ancient fern, or which drop fell as rain when the pyramids were young. You may never know if the water in your cup once circled a whale's heart, or hung suspended in the lungs of a bird flying across oceans. But you are drinking it now. You are part of the story, and the shape it takes in you is yours. You move through the world with your own path, your own riverbed carved by time and choice and chance. You hold your own storms, your own springs, your own deep wells. You are not apart from water. You are its echo. And in this moment, breathing softly, feeling the quiet rhythm of blood and thought and being, you're shaped again. You're held, not just by gravity, not just by breath, but by the flowing grace of something ancient, kind, essential. Water. It holds your cells and it shapes your dreams. It listens when you cry. It cools your anger, steadies your heat, carries your healing. And when you reach for it, when you cup it in your hands, drink from the river, feel it on your skin, it becomes whole again. Not just an element, but a presence, a teacher, a mirror, a beginning. Let yourself be shaped. Let yourself flow. Let yourself remember that life does not need to be hard to be real, or loud to be powerful. It can be quiet, and it can be clear. It can be water, learning always, becoming always. It can be you. You are the shape water took to walk the earth for a little while, and one day gently you will return, drop by drop, breath by breath, to join again with the rain, the sea, the sky, and water will remember you, in every leaf that opens, in every river that bends, in every heartbeat that echoes your own. Long before water reaches your glass, before it sings in your faucet or steams in your tea, it has already travelled 1,000 invisible miles. It has passed through mountain springs and steel pipes, across roots and riverbeds, down gutters and under cities. It has slid through shadows and light, through soil and stone and human hands. This is the unseen journey, the slow, patient movement of water from wildness to home. It begins in places you may never visit. Perhaps a reservoir tucked high between hills where rainfall gathers and sleeps, or a deep aquifer below fields where ancient water has waited for centuries beneath the weight of rock, or a glacial lake, blue and still, reflecting clouds that wander above its surface. From there, water is invited, not stolen but guided. Pipes extend like long arms, coiled beneath roads and sidewalks. Valves open, pumps hum. Water begins its gentle descent into the world we've built. It flows through filtration plants, where it is sifted, settled, softened. Dust and minerals fall away, bacteria are washed aside, the water becomes something clean, something safe, something ready. But even in this modern journey, it remembers its past. It remembers dripping from leaves, winding through moss, splashing over stones. It carries the shape of rivers in its movement. It carries the song of rain in its hush. And though it now travels through steel and plastic, its spirit is unchanged. In many places, water travels for hours before arriving at your door. It passes through main lines that throb with quiet energy. It slips through meters, past gauges, around joints sealed with copper and solder. It winds through walls, beneath tiles, behind silence. And then, with the turn of a handle, it arrives. Clear, calm, waiting. To drink from it is to touch a journey that began long before morning. But its story doesn't start in cities, it starts with pebbles. Out in the open, before we built pipes and tanks, water moved the way it always had, around stones. A creek winding through forest bends, not because it is told to, but because it listens. It listens to the shape of pebbles, the pull of gravity, the slope of earth. Where water meets rock, something beautiful happens. The rock resists but does not block. The water yields but does not stop. Instead, it curves, it dances, it swirls into eddies, it leaps over boulders and spins in shallow pools. And in doing so, it smooths the stone. It polishes it, writes its presence into the very shape of the earth. Some of the stones you see beside a river were once jagged and sharp. Water softened them, not with force, but with time. This is how water travels, with attention, with patience, with touch. And so even when guided by pipes, it remembers how to move, how to bend, how to wait. In old cities, pipes run beneath cobbled streets, below churches and cafes, beneath feet that never notice. Some of these pipes are decades old, some are new, some leak, some sing. Yes, if you listen, really listen, in the quietest hours you can hear water humming through walls, a distant whisper, a lullaby of motion. And when you turn on the tap, that hush becomes a stream. Water arcs into your sink, your tub, your kettle. It cools your fingers, it cleans your skin, it becomes part of your food, your breath, your blood, and then it leaves. Down the drain it flows again, back into pipes, into treatment plants, into rivers, into clouds. It begins again, because water never stays. It visits, it touches, it moves, and along the way, it remembers everything. Even the smallest pebble in its path leaves a trace. Even the smoothest pipe bends its course. Even your glass holds its echo. So drink slowly. Watch the way it moves. See how it clings to the rim, how it slides, how it disappears. Water has come far to be here. Honour it by noticing, by wondering, by remembering that before it met you, it danced through roots and gutters, over stone and steel, and long after it leaves you it will continue, forever on its way, forever becoming. Let us follow the water further, into places most eyes never see. After it leaves your home, your sink, your shower, your glass, it does not vanish. It returns. Into drains and grates and quiet underground tunnels, water slips away, and in doing so it enters another kind of world, a world beneath our feet. There, it becomes part of the wastewater stream, the used, the forgotten. It carries shampoo and soap, traces of tea, specks of soil, whispers of meals, echoes of breath. Not dirty in spirit, only changed. Water that once fell as pure rain now carries the touch of life. And even here in darkness, its journey is not shameful. It is necessary. Treatment plants receive it like caretakers. With filters and settling pools, with microbes and motion, they ask the water what it holds, and slowly, kindly help it let go. The grit settles, the cloudiness clears. The burdens, piece by piece, are lifted. The water becomes light again. Not the same as before, but still itself. Still water. And it moves on. Sometimes it returns to rivers, sometimes to wetlands where reeds and soil offer their own kind of gentle filtering. Sometimes it rises as mist from holding ponds in the early morning, joining again with the ski. This is the full breath of water. Inhale, exhale, arrival, release. Yet even outside cities, even before we built tunnels and taps, water has always known how to return. Rain soaks into soil, finding its way into aquifers. These vast underground lakes lie deep, hidden beneath layers of rock and clay. Water there may be thousands of years old, sleeping in stone, untouched by sunlight or surface air. But even in sleep it waits to be found. A well drawn too deep, too fast may exhaust it, but a well placed with care, with respect, can sip gently from this ancient source, just as roots do, just as springs do. Springs are one of water's oldest songs. A place where underground rivers rise again, shimmering into daylight, cool and constant. Some springs bubble from beneath tree roots. Others emerge from cracks in cliff faces, spilling into clear pools where animals come to drink, where moss gathers, where the past meets the present in ripples. Even a single drop from a spring carries great age. It has touched rock worn smooth by time. It has moved through tiny fractures too narrow for fingers to feel. It has followed a path laid down long before maps or memory. And from there it begins anew, back into streams, through pebbles, across open ground. Pebbles are among water's oldest companions. They are the storytellers of flow. A pebble shaped by glaciers will be cloudy, streaked, dense. One shaped by the mountain runoff will shine with mica or quartz. One tumbled in a lazy creek may be smooth and round, its colours softened by time. Children instinctively gather pebbles. They feel their weight, their coolness, their smooth skin. They toss them into lakes and watch the ripples, without knowing why they connect, because the pebble is where water's memory rests. Hold one, and you hold the record of 1,000 years of river, of drift, of touch. And as water moves over pebbles, it sings. A gurgle, a chatter, a hush. The sound depends on shape, on depth, on speed. This music, heard in brooks, in gutters, in garden fountains, is the voice of movement and friction, of flow meeting resistance and learning to dance with it. It is the same music that echoes in pipes under our cities, only quieter, slower, shaped by nature, not design. Yet even our designs try to mimic this ease. Curved faucets, swirling taps, showerheads that mist, fountains that burble, we are drawn to the sound of flowing water. It soothes us. It reminds us. Even in the most modern bathroom, the stream that pours into your hands carries echoes of mountain snowmelt, of canyon rivers, of ancient glacial runoffs. We do not just use water, we are in constant conversation with it. It flows through our days without asking for thanks, shaping our routines, feeding our gardens, soothing our wounds, cleaning our dishes, cooling our engines, steeping our teas. And through all of this, it leaves little signs. A droplet on the window, a damp ring on the table, a ripple in the puddle at your feet, each one a reminder that water has been here, that it moved through pipes, around pebbles, through you, that it is always moving, never gone, that even the smallest stream leads home. Now we come to the end of water's long, patient path. Or rather, not the end, the pause, because water never truly ends. It pauses, it shifts, it changes form. What feels like an arrival is often only a rest, and in that rest, water waits to begin again. Imagine a drop of water held in a glass, clear, still, silent. You see the surface shimmer, soft with light. You tilt the glass and it moves, as if responding to your thought before you've even spoken. It holds no memory of the pipes that carried it, no visible trace of the stones it passed, no map of the tunnels below, but it remembers, not in words, not in signs, in shape, and the way it clings to glass, curves to the rim, settles into stillness. In that simple pause lies all its past and all its future. And now you drink. The water enters you. It moves through your mouth, down your throat, into your stomach, into your cells. It becomes part of your blood, your thoughts, your breath. It carries nutrients, balances heat, helps you move, think, feel. It finds as your heartbeat and flows with it. You're not just drinking water, you're welcoming it, giving it purpose, giving it shape. For a while the journey is yours together, and then slowly you return it. Through your skin, through your lungs, through your tears, through all the small exits that life has made to carry water back into the world. And water does not mind leaving, it only knows how to move forward. You may wonder where it goes next. It may rise as vapour in the warmth of your breath. It may float out your window and join the clouds. It may settle into soil, become part of a root, a leaf, a grape on the vine. It may be pressed into wine or boiled into soup or stirred into a puddle by the feet of a child. It may fall again, as rain, as snow, as dew, as mist curling over the morning grass, and wherever it falls, it will begin again. It may slide over stone, it may wait in shadow, it may move through pipes or between pebbles, but always it moves. Always it remembers the paths we do not see. Think now of the water that lives in all things, in animals that wake in the dark, in trees that crack open seed pods in spring, in clouds that turn gold at dusk, in rivers beneath cities, in rain barrels and drain pipes and tea kettles and wells. Think of how many forms water takes, and yet it is always water. Never confused, never uncertain, simply present, willing, listening. We may build walls and channels and fences and grids, but water always finds a way, not through force, but through patience, through time. Pebbles will wear smooth, pipes will rust and be replaced, but water will continue, and in its flow we are reminded that everything returns, everything bends, everything softens eventually. So the next time you hear the gurgle of a drain, or the whisper of a stream, or the trickle from your tap, pause, listen, feel the journey within it. Know that it came far to be near you, that it is not just liquid, but memory, not just substance, but to story, and that by touching it, drinking, washing, stirring, breathing, you are part of the story too. Water has flowed through your life 1,000 times. It will do so again, in every cup, in every storm, in every breath that carries the ocean's echo. The journey never ends, only changes, only continues. The glass is quiet. No wind moves across its surface. No light bends within it, save the soft glow from a nearby window. The water inside is still, so still it appears frozen in thought. Yet within this stillness lies the entire memory of motion. This is not just a glass of water. It is the end of a long, soft journey. And in that end, something sacred rests. Before this water reached your hand, it passed through time. It fell as rain. It curled through rivers. It slid across stone and sighed into mist. It journeyed through pipes and clouds and roots and breath. It entered your home. It filled your cup. And now it waits. Look at it. How it holds the shape of the vessel without protest. How it leans gently toward the rim. How, even when still, it flickers with light, revealing the silent rhythm that continues within. This glass is not just full of water, it is full of stories. Some of these molecules once floated in ancient seas, others circled in clouds above lost forests. Some passed through birds, trees, glaciers, fires. Some have touched the lips of animals that no longer walk the earth. Some rose as steam from boiling pots in ancient kitchens. They do not carry labels, they carry memory. And now they are still. Stillness is not the opposite of movement, it is its reflection. Water is at home in both. It can rush as a river, or pause as a pond. It can crash as wave, or sit quietly in a glass. It knows when to flow, it knows when to rest. This is why we turn to it in our quiet moments. A sip of water when words are too much. A warm bath when the day has been too long. A walk in the rain when our thoughts are tangled. Water does not ask questions. It simply arrives. It listens. And sometimes it says nothing at all. But in its silence we find our own. Sit beside a glass of water. Watch how the light bends inside it. Notice the way it mirrors the sky, the room, your own eyes. Listen, not with ears, but with patience. You may begin to feel the breath of the earth within it, the clouds it once passed through, the stones it once shaped, the lungs it once cooled. You may begin to understand that this stillness is not emptiness. It is presence. It is waiting. It is a soft kind of knowing. In many traditions, water in a glass is offered to guests. It is placed beside beds. It is left at altars. It is held in ceremony, not just to quench thirst, but to honour connection. Because even a glass of water knows how to welcome, how to hold space, and how to reflect. There is a reason we look into water when we seek clarity. Because it shows us what we need, not in detail, but in essence, not in noise, but in light. And sometimes the answers are not in what we see, but in what we feel, the calm and the breath, the belonging. In a busy world, the glass waits. It does not rush, it does not shout, it does not overflow unless we pour too much into it. It teaches balance without words. And when we drink, we do not simply take, we join, we participate. We become a part of a cycle older than language and older than stars. And though we set the glass down when we are done, something stays with us. A cooling, a slowing, a reminder. That stillness can hold as much life as motion. That a single sip can carry the whole world in it. That water, even at rest, continues to shape us. Let us stay here, beside the glass a little longer. Not to rush it, but to understand it. Because the water that rests within is not simply pausing, it is holding something. A memory perhaps, a possibility, a breath that has not yet been taken. Even in this small cup, the whole cycle of the world waits quietly. Consider the glass itself. Clear, curved, simple. It does not demand. It does not hide. It only holds. And in doing so, it allows the water to become visible, glistening, glimmering still. The two, glass and water, are made for each other. One gives form and the other fills it. This is the secret of life. We are all vessels, and we are all what fills them. We shape our days like glass. We carry our thoughts like water, sometimes spilling, sometimes rippling, sometimes still. Now imagine a hand reaching for the glass. Fingers curl. The weight lifts. And suddenly that quiet water begins to move. A soft slosh, a shimmer, a shift in the light. Even that small tilt begins the journey again. Water, once still, begins to flow to the lips, to the body, and to the breath. And though it disappears from view, it does not vanish. It is transformed. It becomes part of the person who drinks it, their thoughts, their blood, and their being. And then it moves on into action, into work, into words, into the living motion of the day. And so even stillness is not without consequence. It leads to change, to movement, to new shapes. A glass of water becomes a person singing, a person healing, a person walking under trees. And when they sweat, when they cry, when they sigh, the water returns to the world, to the cycle, to the cloud. This is what the glass holds even when silent, a promise, a gesture toward return. And there's something else, something sacred. Water in a glass can listen. You may have felt it. Those moments when your thoughts are too much, your heart too heavy. You sit, you drink, and though nothing is spoken, something inside you settles. As if the water understood, as if it absorbed what you could not carry anymore. This is why in some places, people leave water beside their bed for dreams to visit. Why they place water near the dying so that the soul has something to carry it gently, or why they bless it, speak to it, honour it. Because water, even still, is never asleep. It listens, it remembers, it holds what we place in hand. Grief, hope, memory, reflection. In this way, the glass becomes a mirror not just of light, but of self. And in that reflection we may find gentleness again. Not as an escape, but as a return to softness, to breath, to gratitude. We do not often thank our water, but perhaps we should, for holding us when we are tired, for asking nothing while offering everything, for making room inside us where stillness can grow, And when the last drop is gone and the glass is empty, even then it leaves a trace. A coolness on your tongue, a clarity in your thoughts, a whisper in your blood. It reminds you that stillness does not mean nothing has happened. It means something sacred was given and received. And so we return the glass to the table, clear, quiet, ready again, and we move forward, just a little more nourished, just a little more whole, carrying in us not only the water, but the whisper. Let us bring this journey to its soft conclusion. The water in your glass is gone now, sipped, shared, absorbed into the rhythm of your body. The glass, emptied, rests on the table like a finished page of a favourite book, and though no sound comes from it, the silence it leaves behind is full. It is the silence of completion, of gratitude, of return. Water never stays in one place for long, but every place it visits is changed. The path it takes through you, through cells and thoughts and tears, is no less sacred than its passage over mountaintops or under cities. What flows through rivers also flows through you. You are part of its memory now. Some of the water that was in your glass will one day return as rain. Some may rise from your breath into the morning air. Some may drift into clouds and journey to places that you will never see. Fields of wheat, rooftops in distant towns, hidden springs in quiet valleys. And all of it will carry the echo of your stillness. That is the secret carried in every drop. Nothing is truly lost. It simply changes hands. The water in your veins today once danced in oceans that no longer exist. It once fell from skies over forests now buried beneath soil. It once sat still in a lake under starlight, before people, before names. And it will continue long after you. It will become a stream, a sip, a lullaby in a newborn's bath. It will shimmer on petals, slip through fingers, drift upward in steam. Each time it will carry with it a trace, not of where it was, but of how it was held. And so the glass, though small, is a sacred thing. It invites pause. It offers simplicity. It reminds us that the greatest truths are not shouted, but whispered. That motion need not be loud to be powerful. That stillness can hold multitudes. You may forget the taste of the water you just drank, but your body will not. Your cells know. Your heart knows. The parts of you that move without thought remember the softness that entered, that settled, that stayed. And this is why we keep returning to the glass, not only for hydration but for something older, a remembering, of being held, of being quieted, of being shaped by something clear and kind. In a world full of noise and urgency, water teaches us to wait, to trust the pause, to listen, not for answers, but for understanding. Because some wisdom arrives only when we are still enough to receive it, and the final rest of water, in a cup, in a hand, in a cloud, is not its end. It is its promise, that it will come again, that the shape may change, but the spirit will return. And so the glass remains on the table, still, silent, whole. You walk away carrying more than moisture. You carry memory, you carry presence, and you carry the story of water's journey, from distant oceans to this quiet moment in your day. And wherever you go, whatever you do, part of that story flows with you. Invisible, patient, listening, waiting to rise again. Long before we understood what a photon was or gave names to pigments and chloroplasts, the leaves already knew how to speak with light. They do not use words, they use stillness. They lift themselves toward the sky each morning, quiet and open, waiting for the soft brush of sunshine. And when the light arrives, whether gently through morning mist or boldly from a summer sky, the leaves begin their ancient work. Photosynthesis. The word sounds mechanical, scientific, precise, but the process itself is poetry. It is the dance of light and life. It is the green world's way of breathing. Each leaf, no matter how small, holds inside it a factory of light. Within its thin skin lie cells filled with chlorophyll, pigments that know how to drink sunlight, not with mouths, but with motion. These pigments absorb certain wavelengths, blues and reds, and reflect back green. That green is not just colour, it is survival, It is transformation. It is light turned into sugar. Inside every leaf, light becomes food. Not just for the tree or the vine or the blade of grass, but for everything. Because the sugar a leaf makes fuels the fruit that feeds the bird. That bird feeds the fox. That fox lives among trees. Those trees breathe in carbon and breathe out oxygen, air that fills your lungs. So in a very real way, the light that enters a leaf becomes the breath that enters you. And the process begins again. A leaf does not rush. It listens to cues, the angle of the sun, the length of the day, the breath of the wind. It turns toward what feeds it. If you watch closely, you can see plants move, slowly tracking the sun across the sky, like eyes that do not blink. Some leaves are small, delicate, almost shy. Others are broad like hands. Some curl, some reach, some drip with dew. But all of them carry inside them the memory of stars, because the sun, after all, is a star, a middle-aged fire burning in a black sky, sending out light that travels millions of miles only to be caught by a single trembling leaf. And that light, so old, so fast, so far, becomes green, becomes sugar, becomes life. You can almost hear the conversation if you sit in the stillness long enough. The sun sends light. The leaf says thank you. The tree grows taller. The forest deepens and the world turns. Light lives in other places too, in moonlight on the rivers, in fireflies blinking in dusk, in the shimmer of your eyes. But in leaves, light finds its most tender home. It is not just reflected, it is received, transformed, remembered. Every salad, every apple, every blade of grass you've ever touched, each one was built from light, and each one began with a leaf, quiet, green, alive. Let's drift now into the middle of the forest, where leaves form a ceiling of quiet breath, and the light above filters down like memory. Here the air is cooler, the sounds are muffled by moss and bark, and overhead thousands of leaves are at work, not loudly, not hurriedly, but with perfect rhythm. Each one is turning sunlight into life, not all at once, not evenly, but together, like the harmony of a slow, invisible orchestra. This is the great secret of the plant world. They are always listening to the sky. They feel its warmth. They measure its hours. They notice when it shifts. Photoperiodism, scientists call it. The ability of plants to respond to the length of daylight. When the days grow shorter, leaves begin to change. They know when to let go. They know when to prepare for sleep, and in doing so they show us how to listen, not to clocks, but to light. In spring the leaves return. Born from buds so small you might miss them, they unfold like soft wings. They do not rush. They know the sun will come, and when it does, they spread wide to receive it. Each leaf is like a solar panel, but more elegant, more alive. Chlorophyll fills its cells, tiny green hands reaching to catch energy. With each photon of light that strikes it, an electron is jolted into motion. That motion begins a cascade, a series of steps that turn sunlight, water and carbon dioxide into glucose, the simplest form of energy. A sugar, a seed, a possibility, and the byproduct? Oxygen, the very air you breathe. So in every inhale you are touching the breath of leaves, and in every exhale you are feeding them in return. This is not metaphor, this is balance, and this is science made sacred. When you walk through a forest or a garden, or a single field of waving wheat, you are surrounded by this quiet miracle. Every leaf you see is catching light, breaking it apart, turning it into something edible, breathable, alive. And not just for now. Trees store sugars in their roots, vines build fruits from it, grasses grow tall with it. All of this comes from the same source. Light turned to matter, energy caught, held, shared. Even fallen leaves continue the work. They break down into the soil, they feed microbes, they nourish fungi. They become part of the earth's breath again. Nothing is wasted, nothing is hurried. Every leaf returns to where it came from. In the tropics, leaves are large, designed to catch as much sunlight as possible under the thick canopy. In deserts, they are tiny or become spines, reducing water loss while still holding chlorophyll deep inside. Form follows light, shape follows need. Even underwater plants, those swaying ribbons you see in lakes, carry out photosynthesis. The sun's touch reaches through the water, and the leaves beneath respond. Light finds a way, and life follows. You too are shaped by light. Your eyes adjust to its rhythm, your skin responds to it. Your sleep is tuned by its rising and setting. The very architecture of your body reflects the cycles of sunlight, waking, working, resting, healing. And like a leaf, your mood lifts when touched by it. You feel it in your bones, the joy of a sunny morning, the peace of dappled light, the hush of evening gold. Even without noticing, your breath deepens, your thoughts soften, because you too are a child of light, just like the leaves, just like the trees. And when you stand beneath them, when sunlight spills through their green canopy and touches your face, you are not outside the process. You're inside it. You're part of it. The light is moving through you too, changing you, feeding you, becoming something only you can hold. The season begins to change. The days grow shorter. The sun shifts lower in the sky. Its rays arrive at a gentle angle, casting long shadows across the forest floor. And in the canopy above, the leaves begin to listen differently. Their work is almost done. The chlorophyll, once so vibrant, begins to fade. The green softens. In its absence, other pigments, always there, always hidden, begin to emerge. Carotenoids, anthocyanins, reds and golds and rusts and ambers. A final burst of colour, a farewell from the leaves to the light that fed them, a quiet celebration, a soft exhale before they fall. And still, even now, the transformation is full of purpose. As chlorophyll breaks down, the tree reabsorbs what it can, storing nutrients in its roots, saving energy for winter. The leaf, emptied of its green, no longer photosynthesizes. It has completed its task, and so it lets go. One by one they drift. Each fall is gentle, a flutter, a pause in mid-air, a whisper onto the ground. And there they lie, not forgotten, but becoming again. The forest floor thickens with memory. Leaves become soil. Soil feeds roots. Roots reach up in spring, and the cycle begins again. But the leaf story doesn't end in the dirt. It ends in the light. Because even in falling, it reflects the sun. Even in death, it carries colour. Even in silence, it holds the shape of the sky. Hold a fallen leaf in your hand, trace its veins with your fingers. Each one was once a channel for sunlight, delivering energy to grow, to breathe, to bloom. It was once green, glowing, alive with purpose, and now, dry and thin, it is still beautiful, still teaching, still whispering. Because every leaf is a reminder that to live is to change, to serve is to shine, to give is to grow. You are not unlike the leaf. You take in the world, you turn it into action, emotion, creation, kindness. You breathe in light in the form of ideas, warmth, memory, and you exhale your own energy back into the world. A smile, a meal, a word, and a silence. And when your season changes, when you too let go of what no longer serves you, it is not loss. It is completion. It is the soft fall before the next beginning. Light does not leave us. It moves through us. Like leaves, we carry it for a while. We use it to grow, and then we return it. And the world continues. So the next time you pass under a tree, or pick a leaf from the sidewalk, or sit beside a window lit with gold, pause. Feel the warmth. Feel the green. Feel the stillness. There, in the hush between light and breath, you will find the oldest truth, that the light lives inside you too. Quiet, gentle, ready, just like the leaves you were made to turn sunlight into something beautiful. Inside your body, beneath your skin and bone, flows a quiet ocean. It doesn't crash or roar, it doesn't sparkle beneath the sun, but it moves, gently, rhythmically, in waves of breath and pulse. This ocean is your blood, and like the sea, it carries life. Every drop of blood you hold contains salt, sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium. These are not just minerals, they are echoes of the ancient sea from which life once emerged. Long before we walked, before we dreamed, before our eyes ever opened, life floated, single-celled, delicate, suspended in the warm shallows of an ancient ocean. It was there that the first organisms began to pulse, to divide, to move, and the sea cradled them, fed them, carried them. It is no accident that our blood is salty. It is no coincidence that its chemistry resembles seawater. It is memory, the memory of origin. Inside you, a story is being told with every heartbeat. Your cells float in plasma, the clear golden fluid of your blood. This plasma is mostly water, but it carries everything: nutrients, hormones, oxygen, messages. It delivers warmth to your fingers. It carries thoughts across synapses. It cools you in heat, rushes to wounds, nourishes growth. It flows through your arteries like tides. It returns through your veins like moonlit waves. It never stops moving, and in its movement it remembers how life once floated free. Even your heartbeat is oceanic. The lubdo. Dub. The rise and fall, the pause between pulses. It mirrors the swell and retreat of waves, the cycles of high tide and low, the rhythm of breath in coral reefs, of seagrass swaying on the ocean floor. Some scientists believe our very heartbeat was shaped by the ocean's rhythm, that the pulsing of our earliest ancestors was synchronized with the gentle motion of tides. And though we live on land now, the ocean still sings inside us, not just in our blood, but in our balance, in our need for water, in the way tears fall, in the way we dream of shores. The salt in your body is not only there for chemistry, it is there for memory. It allows nerves to fire, muscles to contract, thoughts to connect, but it also holds a deeper story, a reminder that you are not separate from the world. You are part of its oldest waters. When you sweat, you taste the sea. When you cry, you echo the tide. When your blood flows, the ocean flows with it. You are a vessel, a shoreline, a moving piece of the ancient deep. And no matter how far from the beach you walk, the ocean remains within you, calling softly, cradling gently, whispering, "You remember me." And you do, not with words, but with breath, with beat, with the quiet pull towards stillness. Let us follow the blood's quiet current through the vastness of the body. Beneath the surface of skin, a silent river moves in loops and branches, flowing endlessly. It leaves the heart with a surge of warmth, travels down arms and legs, through the coils of organs, around the curves of bones. It delivers breath to every cell. Then softly it returns. This is your circulation, your inner ocean in motion. Over 60,000 miles of vessels guide it, enough to wrap around the earth twice. Yet it all fits inside you, folded and coiled and alive, and every beat, every breath helps it along. But this journey is not just mechanical, it is ancient. Each vessel, each capillary, each drop of blood is shaped by a lineage that began in water. In early fish, the heart was a single pump. In amphibians, it became 2 chambers. In mammals, 4. Evolution sculpted these changes over millions of years, tuning the rhythm, improving the flow. Yet the ingredients stayed the same. Iron for strength, salt for balance, water for life, and at the center of it all, hemoglobin, the molecule that makes blood red. It carries oxygen from lungs to cells and carbon dioxide back again. And in its heart sits iron, the same iron forged in collapsing stars, the same iron found in Earth's core. So when you breathe, you are carrying stardust. When you move, it is the sea inside you, powered by ancient fire. Your blood also carries warmth. It heats your hands on cold mornings. It cools you when you run. It brings nutrients to growing bones, hormones to changing cells, quiet immunity to silent invaders. In this way, blood is both sea and story. It adapts to need. When you laugh, your vessels open wider. When you fear, they narrow. When you love, they bloom. And behind it all, water moves. it carries, it listens. Even your lymph, the clear fluid that cleans and heals, moves with the same patience. It gathers waste, filters it through nodes, returns to the blood. It is the ocean's cousin, still flowing, still watching, still restoring. Your heart is the ocean's drum. Its beat is not just sound, but time. It keeps pace with your breath, your sleep, your dreams. When you rest, it slows. When you rise, it speeds. But always, it continues. Even in sleep, it does not stop. Even in silence, it speaks. What does it say? It says, you're alive. It says, you carry the sea. It says, every moment is movement. And in this movement, you are never still. Because even when your body is resting, your blood is not. It turns light into energy, it rebuilds, it remembers, and still it whispers of the sea, that need for salt in your food, that thirst that wakes you at night, that peace you feel near waves. These are not random, they are echoes, genetic memory, chemical longing. You are made of earth and water and sky, and the part of you that flows knows all three. So when you place a hand on your chest and feel the thump beneath, know this, you are not hearing a machine. You are hearing an ocean that learned how to walk, and it has never forgotten where it came from. The journey begins to quiet. Your heart, steady and strong, continues its rhythm, like waves that do not ask to be seen but simply are. Within you, the ocean flows without tide tables, without ships, without salt spray, but it moves just the same. And in that motion there is peace, because the blood does not rush. It does not panic. It pulses. It listens. It finds its way. When you are still, it continues. When you dream, it drifts. When you are afraid, it steadies you. And when you feel love, it carries it through warmth, through pressure, through touch. This is how your inner ocean speaks, not with sound, but with presence. Think of how your cheeks flush when you laugh, how your skin glows in sunlight, how your fingers tingle in the cold. These are not just responses, they are poetry written in blood. And the ocean remembers. It remembers every rise, every fall. It remembers the ancestors who first crawled from salt to soil. It remembers the umbilical tides of your beginning, the womb filled with warm fluid, where your first movements were like those of a tiny swimmer. You floated before you breathed. You were cradled before you stood. And though you now walk, speak, and reach, part of you is always floating, always remembering, always returning to water. Even in death, the body returns to the earth, and the water within returns to the cycle, into soil, into roots, into clouds, into rain. It begins again. What flowed in you may one day rise in mist above a forest. It may fall as dew on a mountain flower. It may become part of a river in a place you'll never go, but it carries the shape of you, the rhythm of your heart, the whisper of your time, and it continues. The sea does not mourn what leaves it. It welcomes what returns. And you too are part of this welcoming. When you drink water, you invite the world in. When you bleed, you give part of it back. When you weep, you offer salt to the wind. And every beat, every drop, every wave within you is another echo of that first ocean. The one that held the moon. The one that knew the stars. The one that long ago imagined something soft and walking and made you. So the next time you feel your heart beat, the next time you float in a bath, the next time you dream of waves, know that it is not distance that calls you. It is recognition. You do not need to be beside the ocean to be part of it. You carry it. You are it. You are salt and pulse and rhythm. You are tide wrapped in skin, and the ocean in your blood, quiet, eternal, remembering, will never forget where you came from. Nor will you. Far above the forests, in the deep and silent sky, the moon drifts in her silver arc. She does not speak. She does not shine her own light. She reflects. She waits. And yet, without sound, without force, she moves the oceans. She stirs the tides. She lifts water from the sea and pulls it gently across the earth. And the trees feel it. Though rooted in stillness, trees are not unaware. They are not inert. they stretch, they breathe, they feel. And in the hush of night, when the winds have calmed and the stars are watching, trees respond to the tug of the moon. Not like waves, more like breath. You may not see it, you may not hear it, but inside their trunks, sap rises and falls with the pull of lunar tides. Just as the moon lifts oceans, she lifts the inner water of trees. Scientists have measured it. It is small, but it is real. A moon-pulled tide inside the forest. The ancient rhythms continue. Every leaf on every branch is touched by the moonlight, not warmed, but illuminated. And that illumination, soft and cool, enters the leaves. The stomata, the tiny mouths on the undersides, do not open for moonlight, but they sense it. The tree knows what time it is, not by clocks, but by light. Lunar light. Cyclic, predictable, mysterious. Some plants flower only under a full moon. Some corals release their eggs only when the moon is high. Some seeds wait for a specific sliver of light to begin. The moon keeps the calendar of the earth, and trees, silent and steady, read it like a prayer. Even in roots, change happens. Water in the soil is slightly pulled upward by lunar gravity. It's enough to alter pressure, enough to signal, enough to whisper through the root network that something has shifted above. And through these roots, trees are connected. They do not grow alone. Beneath the ground, mycorrhizal fungi weave threads between trunks, passing nutrients, messages, and memories. When one tree feels drought, others begin to prepare. When one suffers, others send aid. It is a forest-wide web, a neural network in soil, and it too is touched by the moon. The tides do not stop at shorelines. They reach into stone, into root, into wood. And as trees sway gently in the night breeze, their limbs reflect the sky's turning. The moonlight filters down like silver dust, catching on leaves, sparkling on dew. And the trees continue to breathe, not with lungs, but with pores, with life, with presence. They are not pulled in waves, they are pulled in rhythm. Even humans long ago noticed. Woodcutters timed their felling with the phases of the moon. They believed wood cut during a waning moon would be less likely to rot. That sap would be lower, that the wood would be stronger, and modern research suggests they were right. The moon changes trees, not just in myth, in water, in weight, in time. So when you walk beneath a full moon and the forest is quiet, know this. You are not the only one being moved. The trees are listening. They are rising. They are remembering that they too are full of water, that they too answer the sky, and the moon, distant and glowing, continues her pull, steady, gentle, endlessly patient. Let us now move deeper into the forest, into the soft hush of night, where the trees stand tall, not as watchers but as rememberers. The moon has risen high, casting her silver hush upon everything. The leaves shimmer gently in her glow, not rustling loudly, but moving like sighs, and inside each tree something stirs, not loudly, not suddenly, but with rhythm, with grace. Sap rises. It is a slow pull, like breath moving through a chest at rest. Inside the trunk, water and sugar mingle, the xylem and phloem, the tree's hidden arteries, carry what the tree needs, from roots to tips, and just as the sun's heat pushes fluid upward during the day, the moon pulls gently by night. This nighttime lift, measured in millimeters, may seem small, but it is enough to mark time, enough to shift pressure, enough to change how the tree feels. Some trees swell slightly in the moonlight, others seem to relax, their limbs droop ever so gently, their posture softens. If you could record them with time-lapse, you'd see a slow dance, an inhale during the day, an exhale by night, a lunar breath, and beneath the soil the story continues.